Hey, welcome to Broken World Entertainment. And it looks like David Zaslav admits rebuilding DC and Warner Brothers is more challenging than he thought, and confirms studio has an awful lot to do and an awful lot to undo. So there's an article over here in Bounding into Comics. Let's dive into it a little bit here and see what he exactly says. So, Warner Discovery CEO David Zaslav is being brutally honest about what it's like to restructure Warner Brothers. And it's no easy task, as it turns out he inherited a bigger mess than he thought he would. The studio, DC, the streaming offerings at HBO Max, and all of it is a challenge he sums up with a quote from Kevin Costner on Yellowstone. "We have an awful lot to do and an awful lot to undo," Zaslav said during a keynote convention at the RBC Media Conference, as reported by Deadline. "It was much more challenging than we thought. You opened up the closet, things fell out. We are fixing them. Some assets are better than we thought at the core. The talent is better than we thought. However, the tenacious executive feels up to the challenge. In fact, he welcomes it." He says, "But there was a lot that was unexpectedly worse than we thought," he continued. "For me, I don't want to buy a company that is really well run. It's hard to make it better. So every day we open the closet and something comes out. HBO Max is the most cluttered closet, bursting at the seams from mismanagement for the past 2 years, dubbed irrational by the executive. Content including major releases available in 2021 netted subscribers who didn't stay for long. Right now, we can get 30 million people with Euphoria, but they can come on for 2 months, watch Euphoria, and then leave," which is the problem all streamers are having. Not so much Netflix, but the likes of Disney Plus and stuff. People literally wait for a show to fully air, because Disney Plus and the likes of Amazon excuse me, do kind of the weekly episodes rather than the binge model. But people just wait till the show's done, subscribe. You usually get your free subscription, binge watch it, and then just unsubscribe. So Zaslav added, "Do we want to create incentives for people to be there? There are a lot of companies that have a business where the majority of people are there for the year." According to his numbers, HBO paid $2.5 billion for content in 2029, and that's exactly how much they made that year. Last year they spent almost $7 billion, losing $3 billion. Isn't that interesting that they paid $2.5 billion in content in 2019, and only 2019, and last year they only spent $7 billion. Compare that to what Disney Plus paid for this year alone. $30 billion they paid. 30 billion. 30 billion dollars Disney Plus paid this year alone. Now granted, they lost $3 billion, but that was to be expected. "I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that," he said, making note of all those direct-to-streaming movies released last year. Right on top of the service, Zaslav continued, "Our whole library went on HBO Max. We weren't selling any of it, but it was all there, and most of it was not being watched or adding subscribers. We looked and we said, most of that is not being watched, or we don't think anyone is subscribing because of this. We could sell it non-exclusively to someone else," he explained, realizing at the same time the option of taking matters into their own hands is still in play. That would entail creating their own free service. So already they're kind of talking about Here, look, someone's not watching this thing. We can keep the rights, but we can basically lease the show to someone else. Kind of like what CBS did with Star Trek Discovery. The only difference there is they made Netflix pay for it, and Netflix ended up funding the goddamn show. But it looks like he's really taking a step back here and really looking at the damage that was caused at Warner Brothers. He's seeing the value in DC. He set that aside to be its own thing. Very much wants Superman to be front and center leading that. We know he says, he doesn't want like 4 and 5 Batmans at the same time and stuff. And now we're hearing what he's talking about, saying like how cluttered and how much of a mess HBO Max is. It's already talks about HBO Max being done away with. And it sounds like they could do that and just, set up something brand new and really kind of put the popular things on there. The strategy with streaming has to be you have to be knowing exactly where you're going with it, because as I said, people will just subscribe, get your 7-day free trial, whatever, binge watch the show they wanted to subscribe, and then just cancel it. So as he's saying there, you have to have something there to grab them, to keep them invested in wanting to be on the service. It also doesn't help that there's like fucking 100 other bleeding services. Your Disney Pluses, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, Hulu, bloody Amazon, Apple TV. The list goes on and on and on and on and on, and just seems to keep growing. So you really kind of have to have something there. And he's obviously looking specifically at our movies, like they need to be on the big screen, which is the right way of thinking in terms of getting the audience invested in your movies as well, rather than doing what the likes of CBS and places did, and even Disney Plus are doing, where they're using big brand names to try and convince people to sign up. Oh look, rather than putting Star Trek on terrestrial TV, we'll stick it on the pay service, so people have to pay to watch it. Oh look, Star Wars, we'll just make a ton of series and put it on Disney Plus, make people pay to watch it. So he looks very, very much like he's really assessing everything, knowing exactly where to cut, what not to cut. As he says, a lot of the stuff, the talent, and a lot of the properties at the core at least have very strong, what would you call it? Have no idea what you'd call it. It was in my head and it just left. It was like, you're on your own. Like, uh-oh. But it seems to be there that he can make something useful out of it. Hence why Cavill's back. So, we'll see what happens. Time will tell. And with that, I shall leave it here at this one. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.